Hello everybody and welcome to this week's AEW Week in Review. Actually, we're going to be talking about Dynamite, Rampage, and Battle of the Belts just because there was so much to talk about this week in AEW. So I'm excited to get into all of it with you guys right after this.
I think she's a little sweet on Christian Cage, if you know what I mean.
The AEW Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa.
Nobody is on my level.
The TBS champion.
Nobody better in the world than Cisco Khan.
I want you to fire me, you.
Alright everybody, I don't want to waste any time here, and I really just want to jump into this because I just finished watching Battle of the Belts, and that main event was incredible. So we're going to start a little bit backwards here and talk about the main event of Battle of the Belts first, and then we can plug Patreon and we can do all that stuff. But while it's fresh in my mind, I want to get it out there because William Regal said it best. That was a match that if you were young and watching it, you'd want to become a professional wrestler. I mean, these two guys, one, beat the crap out of each other, but two, had such an amazing back and forth match, told such a great story of, I almost wanted to call him Cesaro, Claudio Castagnoli attacking the back, originally Konosuke Takeshita attacking the leg, but then going at the neck later on. I didn't realize how much Konosuke Takeshita, that's still tricky for me, his moveset is like Sami Zayn's or El Generico, whatever you want to call him now. I didn't realize how much those movesets were similar, and obviously, apparently, they had a lot of wars back in the day that I have not seen, but that's definitely something I want to go back and watch, because this Konosuke Takeshita guy has been like the breakout star of 2022, and I think if there's some award for that, I don't know if PW Insider does an award for that, but he is going to win it. Coming to the States and just doing a quick little tour, I'm going to miss the guy when he's gone, really. He's fought Hangman Page, Jon Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli, and had all these really great matches. He had a good match, and I guess we can cover it now, too, on Rampage, I think it was, against Hollywood Ryan Nemeth. That was a cute little match. Obviously, it was like less than a minute, so there's not much to talk about there. But this main event, just the back and forth, the near falls. I got chills on that near fall off the Hurricanrana. I think Claudio was going for the Ricola bomb, and he hit him with the Hurricanrana, and he landed right on his head. And I swear that was a 3 count. I'm arguing that one to my grave that was a 3 count. I thought the title change was happening right then and there. They really got me. And like I said, I got chills, and when a match gives me chills, you know it was a good damn match. So I wanted to get that out there right away first, and then cover that match first and foremost. And now we can head on over to Dynamite. But before we do, let me plug Patreon. It is only $1 a month, and 99 cents a month, actually, if I'm exact. And you get all these shows ad-free, as well as you can subscribe on iTunes to get all these shows ad-free. So I want to quickly plug that. Go ahead if you haven't done that already. I don't know what you're doing because ads stink, and we'd rather have none of them. So it's a cheap price for a good deal. So, all right, let's get into Dynamite and start on the opening match, which was Jay Lethal versus Orange Cassidy. And this obviously we'll probably talk about Rampage as well right after this because this led into that. But yeah, this was a really good match, but I was kind of peed about the ending of it. But back and forth, the story was that Jay Lethal was dismantling the legs of Orange Cassidy. Very impressive match fought by Jay Lethal, but I really thought Orange Cassidy was going to get the win here. It seemed kind of silly and 50-50 that Orange Cassidy and Best Friends got the win on Rampage last week in a triple or 6-man tag. However, now Jay Lethal was getting the singles win, and I really think we're botching Orange Cassidy here. I understand why it had to be Orange Cassidy in this spot because he's building this relationship with Wardlow, and Wardlow's finally getting a friend, and how funny of all the people, it's Orange Cassidy, and so I get that. I don't know, guys, though. Was this worth the sacrifice of Orange Cassidy? He's lost against Wardlow now, and he's lost against Jay Lethal, and I was really looking at him as a possible title contender for All Out. Maybe that's crazy on my part, but I thought if CM Punk wasn't back, Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy could have been the match if he was built correctly, but this is not obviously building him correctly. So, yeah, Jay Lethal getting the win, and then if we hop over to Rampage... Or, excuse me, not Rampage, I misspoke before. Battle of the Belts, we had Wardlow versus Jay Lethal. And we also, really quick, I guess, on Rampage, we had a little segment backstage with Orange Cassidy and Best Friends and Danhausen talking about somehow that they're going to challenge for the the trios title. So at least we get to see them in that tournament. I don't think they're going to win that at all, but it'll be nice to see a good showing from them there. And I guess that's why we can't really see Orange Cassidy in the title feud right now if he's going to be in the trios tournament. So whatever. But we hop over to Battle of the Belts once again. We had the TNT Championship Wardlow versus Jay Lethal. And I wasn't super impressed with this match. I don't know what it was missing. And I really didn't like the after the match. But yeah, I don't know if it was like the slow beatdown from Jay Lethal that lost me. I don't know. Jay Lethal is a good, I don't know what the expression is. Scout on your belt, piece on your badge on your belt to have for Wardlow beating him. Like, I think he's a good first challenger, honestly. Although, like I said, I don't agree with sacrificing Orange Cassidy for this. But with that being said, I think he's a good, whatever it is, badge on your belt to have for Wardlow to have as beating him for the TNT title, or not beating him for the TNT title, but beating him in defense of the TNT title. And I don't know what it was, though, about this match. I think that Jay Lethal wrestles a style that doesn't really go exactly well with Wardlow's style. Wardlow is so fiery and, that's what gets you so excited about what he does. And the long, drawn-out, throwing the knee against the steel post, looking into the hard cam, yada, 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 stuff just doesn't really work as well in a Wardlow match. And there was a nice spot that I liked where Wardlow kept trying to get the powerbomb and Jay Lethal kept getting out of it, but that headbutt was insane, and then they were hitting with the lariat and then finally getting the powerbomb. Question though, why are we only doing one powerbomb now? Like, I was so excited about this match just because I wanted to see Jay Lethal get powerbombed over and over and over again, and I reserve my right to enjoy that for many reasons, but that I will not speak about on this podcast. But yes, I was excited to see Jay Lethal get his head kicked in and get powerbombed over and over again, and that's not what we got here. We got like a slow technical match where Jay Lethal went after the leg, and Wardlow didn't really even sell the leg towards the end of the match, so I don't know if that's just because he's so strong or because he's still new and doesn't really know how to do that yet, or I don't know exactly what that was. But yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of this. I didn't think it did well. And then after the match, the beatdown, the long drawn out Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh foot on the chest of Wardlow just didn't do much for me. And then, where are we going to go from here? Are we going to do a rematch? Like, I don't really need to see Jay Lethal versus Wardlow again. I didn't really enjoy it the first time. And I guess maybe Satnam Singh versus, I always mix them up. Satnam Singh versus Wardlow is maybe the match. The only thing that would make that worth it is if Wardlow is actually able to powerbomb him. Could you imagine that? But yes, they threw Wardlow through the table, and that was that. And yeah, I don't know. I wasn't super, it was like a really clunky beatdown. It took way too long. You could have added even more time to that women's match or the main event, I thought. So I don't know. It wasn't for me. But let's jump back over to Dynamite, guys, and talk about what happened next here. We had, like I said, the opening match, Jay Lethal versus Wardlow. And then we had the Undisputed Elite returning. Outwalk Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Adam Cole, the Young Bucks, and Nick and Matt Jackson. Adam Cole said it feels good to be back in a ring, and more importantly, it feels good to be back in a ring with his friends. He said he's unfortunately still not medically cleared, but there's a lot of things coming up for the Undisputed Elite. And he talked about leadership that makes a great faction. It's chemistry. We have that in spades, but mostly it's about loyalty. It's about fighting alongside your brothers no matter what. And we had that too. And he came to AEW because of the Young Bucks, because of loyalty to the Young Bucks. He traveled around the globe with Kyle and Bobby because of loyalty. Loyalty is everything. Loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. And then, which brings us to the Trios tournament. He said, Matt and Nick, guys, nothing I would love more for the Undisputed Elite to be the winners of the Trios tournament. But he's not medically cleared. Kyle O'Reilly isn't medically cleared. And if you're not choosing Bobby Fish to be your partner, then you two won't be physically capable of competing in this tournament. And then the beatdown happened. Adam Cole and Red Dragon started beating down the Young Bucks. It really wasn't a big beatdown at all. And just when things were about to get spicy with Matt Jackson getting, the chair across his neck, his chair across his neck. No, his chair across his neck. And Nick already beaten down. We had the one, the only, Hangman Adam Page running to the ring with the metal pipe to run Cole and Red Dragon off. And then Hangman Page offered his hand to Matt Jackson, and Matt Jackson, guys, he took his hand. Gets me a little choked up. And it was a beautiful moment. However, I will say that the turn itself, there was something missing here. To me, I think the cadence of the promo was not great. I thought that maybe it was the slot it was put on the show. Maybe you could have opened with this, possibly. I don't know. I know AEW isn't all about the opening promos, but I could have used this maybe as like that. That would have formed a little bit more gravitas towards the whole thing. When first you just had a big match between Jay Lethal and Orange Cassidy, and a good match at that. So I don't know if that was it. I don't know if it's that Red Dragon is just really not over. I don't know about you guys. They do nothing for me. And you know what? I really like Bobby Fish. You guys know how I feel about Kyle O'Reilly. It doesn't do it for me whatsoever. I don't buy it. There's nothing there for me. But Bobby Fish, I actually really enjoy, and I think he's pretty deadly in the ring, or comes off as pretty deadly. But yeah, maybe Red Dragon just isn't that over. Maybe we came out too early to make the save with Hangman Adam Page. Maybe we should have done a little bit more damage, made a little bit more of a bad beatdown. Maybe Hangman Page should have came earlier. I don't know. I don't know what would have made this better. But yeah, it felt like it should have been a big deal, but it didn't feel like a big deal. I don't know if that makes any sense, but next up we had the AEW Interim World Champion Jon Moxley saying some stuff about how he doesn't care who wins tonight between Chris Jericho and Wheeler Yuta. He doesn't care when the bell rings. He has no respect for anybody. He's going to send him to the hospital, yada, yada, yada. He said he's going to make the Heart Dungeon look like daycare compared to the Blackpool Combat Club. Easy for me to say. And he says whoever wins tonight, they better be ready to step in the ring with me next week. Because when they step in the ring with me, it's not a game. And then we had Tony Schiavone trying to interview Christian Cage. I don't know why I can't speak today. Christian Cage earlier in the day. Christian Cage was interrupted as Jungle Boy almost ran him over with the car. And that was that. And we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. But we had... guys, it's the quarter hour, and you know what that means. Oh, wait, it's not. It's the second match on the show. And you don't know what that means, and I didn't know what that meant because we had the women's match, not in the quarter hour of AEW Dynamite. I don't know what's happening. Triple H must be contagious. Something's going on. Maybe there's a revolution beginning. I'm not going to get ahead of myself here, but I've already gotten ahead of myself here. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter, obviously with Rebel by their side, versus Thunderstorm. AEW Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa, and Toni Storm. I saw something about some other tag team that was called Thunderstorm, and I'm trying to remember where I saw it. So they are not the original Thunderstorm, and I can't put my finger on it. It happened earlier this week, and I was just, as we do, just watching archives of wrestling, and it popped up somewhere, and I can't remember where it was. But anyways, this was a great match. Really an awesome tag team match. We had "This is awesome" chants. Toni Storm using those hip attacks looked really intense toward the ends of the match. She just loves the DDT, man. She loves the DDT. But Britt Baker pulled Thunder Rosa down while Toni Storm went to go to the hip attack, and Hayter ended up hitting the lariat to get a pinfall on Toni Storm, and that's how the match ended. And that is how Jamie Hayter got her title match on AEW Battle of the Belts. We can talk about that before we move on as well. But yeah, this was a really good match. The DDTs by Toni Storm always look awesome. Jamie Hayter really was like the star of this match, in my opinion. She did... I could watch Jamie Hayter take a crossbody from anybody over and over and over again. I literally, you know how you have a little skip back 15 seconds? I rewind almost every single time she takes a crossbody just because I love it so much. She like jumps in the air and catches them, and it's just so, it adds so much impact to it. I don't know why not everybody does this, but I think she should teach a class on it because it makes it look so much better. The crossbody to me doesn't look that dangerous unless you do it really well, but like normally if someone like John Cena maybe ruined the crossbody for me, but if you can just roll through it and catch someone, I don't know how impactful that move can really be, but the way Jamie Hayter catches a crossbody is just the best thing ever. So, and Britt Baker, it was nice to see Britt Baker wrestle again on TV. I know we just saw her in like a quick tag team match on Rampage or something, but it was nice to see, like I said, just the women get the spotlight here. A couple of really awesome suplexes, really powerful forearms back and forth, Thunder Rosa and Jamie Hayter specifically. So I really, really enjoyed this match, and I'm really happy that they were in the quarter hour, and maybe Triple H is contagious. But let's move on over to AEW's Battle of the Belts, where we could talk about the championship match that was Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter. I don't think this lived up to the same level of the tag team match. I don't think it was nearly as good. I think it was a little bit clunky at points. I don't know, guys, if Thunder Rosa is it for me, and I've talked about this on the show before, but she feels like a star when she comes out and enters, and gets the reaction she gets. She feels like a star. But when she's not on TV, she doesn't feel like it's like, who's the women's champion? Oh, it's Thunder Rosa. Like when it was Britt Baker, it was Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, is your women's champion. You know what I mean? But oh, your women's champion, it's Thunder Rosa. It's kind of how I feel. And when she wrestles, some of these greener talent, like a Jamie Hayter, I don't really know how Pierre's that green, but she's definitely the most powerful woman on that roster besides Nyla Rose, obviously. And I think that was mentioned on commentary. But, these matches come off clunky a lot, and the match against Serena Deeb was incredible because you had two experienced wrestlers going at it, but I don't feel like Thunder Rosa carries someone and I don't know how much Jamie Hayter needs to be carried, but I guess she kind of did here. I don't know how much Thunder Rosa carries a match as well as she does with someone who's experienced when she's working with someone who's a little bit more inexperienced. And I think that's an important part to have as a champion. And you know what? Britt Baker didn't do a good job of it at all either. Britt Baker was green enough to not be able to carry other women. When she wrestled against Hikaru Shida, it was great because Hikaru Shida's great. Speaking of which, I would love to see where Hikaru Shida is. I think she's been wrestling on Dark, but I miss Hikaru Shida. But yeah, this didn't live up to the tag team match at all. I don't think it was hard hitting for sure, and Jamie Hayter's got a title in her future for sure. I was hoping they were going to go with an upset even, and I know that's kind of wild, but these Battle of the Belts just feel like title defenses. You don't really feel like anybody's actually going to win one, and so I think they should have someone win a title on one of these shows to actually make it worth tuning in and watching. I'd love to see the ratings that this show did, and you know what? Let's look at the ratings that all of these shows did this week. I don't know how many are up from now because what's it called? Because okay, I don't know how many of the ratings are up because Battle of the Belts just happened and Rampage just happened a night ago, and it usually takes a little while for them to come out. But Dynamite's ratings were down slightly. Apparently, Dynamite averaged 938,000 viewers on Wednesday night. That's not bad at all. I think a little under a million viewers with the 0.32 rating in the demos, which is down 3% from last week. Interesting. I'd like to say I don't care a lot about ratings, but I am always interested in it, so I guess I do kind of care. I think it's nice to know how the show that you like is doing, especially there was a while where those demos were beating Raw's demos, and that was saying something crazy, you know what I mean? And demos are really what matters, I guess, now, but for me, overall viewership is still where I kind of rate stuff, so... and a little under 1 million is not even touching Raw that hit 3.2 million or something this week with new Triple H in charge, Paul Levesque. Anyways, this is not a comparison show. I just wanted to quickly mention that. All right, so next up on Dynamite, what did we have? We had Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti were shown in Paris, and they announced that they're getting married. Eddie Kingston interrupted the video package. He said Sammy Guevara has a receipt and a contract coming, and to see you at the pay-per-view. So I guess we're getting Sammy Guevara and Eddie Kingston at the pay-per-view, which is weird. I didn't expect that. The feud with Jericho ended really poorly, so maybe this is a make good. I don't exactly know what we're doing here, but whatever. I'm excited to see what happens next in that feud because Eddie Kingston is great. And Eddie Kingston has such a way of making wrestling feel real. He does it better than anybody else. So then we had Powerhouse Hobbs versus Ren Jones, and this was just a squash match. But Powerhouse Hobbs' entrance and his whole thing, he looks incredible. And he's got a snarl, like the snarl on his face. That's the best word I have for it. Is so good. And he didn't even do the spine buster to get the win this time. He just hit a clothesline. So shows how brutal Powerhouse Hobbs is, I guess. Then we had Darby Allin somewhere tattooing Brody King's name on his hand. I don't know, you guys, but we have a coffin match next week. So Jim Ross joined the broadcast booth. It's always nice to see him get his little pop. And then we turned our clocks back to like 2000, where we had Christian Cage versus Matt Hardy. And why was this on this show, guys? You have all these... I'm going to be that person. But you have all these young guys. Put Takeshita. God damn it. Put, you know who. No, I'm kidding. Put Konosuke Takeshita. Yes, let's go with that. On Dynamite instead of Rampage. Put him on Dynamite and have that match against Ryan Nemeth even, just to give him a little momentum. Or put him against someone else who's got a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a better reputation, but just like a little bit more of a challenger than Ryan Nemeth poses. Yeah, put him against someone on Dynamite rather than Christian Cage versus Matt Hardy, which is like back to 2000. Why am I watching this? I don't even care to recap this. This was such a boring match. It was such a match. It was like wrestling happening in front of me. That's all it was. And Christian, like, here's what I really want to talk about. Why is Matt Hardy getting 90% of the offense on Christian Cage, and Christian Cage just barely escaping with the win? Like, I'm sitting there like, okay, like, Jungle Boy is clearly going to beat Christian Cage because Jungle Boy is way better than Matt Hardy, who is old and fairly washed up. And when I say fairly washed up, I just mean washed up. I'm just trying to be polite. Why is Matt Hardy getting all of this offense on Christian Cage? Why is that, like, what is that doing to build up Christian Cage whatsoever? This should have been a squash match, guys. This should have been a squash match, maybe even a kick in the nuts and a kill switch, but it should not have taken this long. Matt Hardy should not have gotten nearly as much offense as he did, and Christian Cage should have got the win within 5 minutes. Please, this was so terrible. Maybe if they did that, I would have been cool with that. But Christian Cage pulls two steel chairs out beneath the ring, goes to do the concerto, but Luchasaurus walks down the ramp, and just as Christian Cage is distracted, Jungle Boy jumps in the ring. He tries to hit Christian Cage with a chair, I think, and Christian Cage runs through the crowd to get some distance from Jungle Boy, and then obviously the invisible wall goes up so Jungle Boy cannot chase him once again. And you know what? I was kind of fine with it because I didn't need to see Jungle Boy and Christian Cage going up the stairs again. Last time it was really funny. I don't know if you guys have seen like cartoon music behind that and stuff like that. But yeah. So I'm excited for this feud, but this was a misstep for me. Another misstep in this feud, and I think 3 strikes and you're out for me normally. We're at 2 right now. So I don't know what's going next. But Tony Schiavone backstage with Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia talks about his win against Bryan Danielson and says it was the biggest win in AEW. He's the Dragon Slayer. And Bryan, when you're ever ready to come back from injury, I'm going to slay the dragon again. And you know what? Good. Like, make these wins feel like a big deal, because it was a big deal. Whether or not Jake Hager's interference was there or not, like, that was a big deal. So then we had Ethan Page in the ring asking about why he isn't featured on TV every week. Stokely Hathaway comes out, gives him a card. He ends up accepting it. So it looks like Ethan Page is going to be one of Stokely Hathaway's many, it feels like, many clients. So whatever. I love Ethan Page. So anything that pushes Ethan Page further, I'm all about. Tony Schiavone backstage with Anna Jay, Angelo Parker, and Matt Menard. And this, Ashley and I had some gripes about Anna Jay's promo this week, but this was 10 times better. She was just like, I'm going to choke you out. I'm going to choke you out. And then she just started choking some random dude out. And you know what? I love the comb. Angelo Parker, I love the comb. And Matt Menard's promos are always hilarious. So they look like just like the annoying people you don't want to sit at the cafeteria with. They just look like really annoying human beings. So I'm all about that. And Anna Jay just going psycho, whatever. I don't know where this came from, where she snapped. But this was a little bit better than last week. And it had me laughing. So I'll give him that. And then we had probably my favorite match of the night, or if it wasn't the women's match, and that was the dumpster match. This was just a whole lot of fun, you guys. The Gun Club coming out with Billy Gunn, and they tried to double suplex Bowens onto the trash cans, but Bowen reversed it and suplexed the Gun Club. The Gun Club powerbombed Bowens into the dumpster, and Max Caster was backdropped into the dumpster, and this was one of my favorite parts, but Caster ended up getting back up, stopping them from closing the lids, and just nailing somebody. I forget which Gunn brother with the cookie sheet, which looked great. They brawled up the ramp, and Austin was on top of the tunnel. Caster climbed up and threw Austin into the dumpster, and then Bowens placed Colton Gunn on the table, and Caster hit him with a mic drop, threw them both in the dumpsters, and then they pushed the dumpster off the stage. A throwback, obviously, and this was just a fun time, you guys. It was like it was a good wrestling match for sure, but it was just fun, and you need a little bit of a buffet in your AEW wrestling, and I think this is like the comedy match of the night. Cookie sheets, like, come on. They should use cookie sheets more often, honestly. What a great smack that you get from that, and hopefully it doesn't hurt that much. But yeah, I thought this was just the best match of the night. It was just fun to watch, and I enjoyed myself. And when I say the best match of the night, I don't mean technically the best match of the night, but I just mean like that I enjoyed it more than any other match, and I just had a good time watching it. So all props to these guys. This was a great time. And then we had the main event, which was Chris Jericho with Angelo Parker and Matt Menard versus the Ring of Honor Pure Champion Wheeler Yuta. And yeah, I don't like the way that Wheeler Yuta lost here. We'll go to the ending of the match, which was Yuta caught Jericho off guard with the third Tope Suicida. Jericho attempts the lion salt, but Yuta raises his knees to block it, and that lion salt always looks so dangerous when he does that. I'm like, you're a 50-something-year-old man doing a backflip off the ropes. It's just scary. Wheeler Yuta jumped off the top rope, but Jericho countered it with the code breaker, and he got a 2 count. Jericho used the hammer and anvil elbows that Yuta and the Blackpool Combat Club usually use, but Yuta grabbed Jericho's broken nose once again. That was the story throughout the match as well, and why wouldn't you? Yuta had Jericho in a submission, but Jericho grabbed his baseball bat, and a rough Aubrey Edwards had to yank it away. When she had her back turned, Jericho hit Yuta with a low blow, a nice kick to the balls, and Jericho applied the Lion Tamer, and Yuta was forced to tap out. Like, I feel like I liked the kick in the balls, and I liked that the ending was not necessarily clean, but the problem with the submission is a submission almost makes a clean victory out of nothing. So, yes, he got kicked in the balls, but the Lion Tamer, which looks like such a brutal submission, don't get me wrong, but I don't like that he tapped Wheeler Yuta out. I think maybe Wheeler Yuta could have passed out from pain, something like that, but I feel like a Blackpool Combat member tapping out should be a big deal, and I don't feel like this was treated like that. Not to mention, the match was what it was. Wheeler Yuta is great, but Chris Jericho wrestling a regular match in 2022 just is tough. Look, props to him for still being able to go, don't get me wrong, but, like, does he have these technical master, matches? No. Is he exhilarating and exciting to watch? No. Just scary sometimes for me. Like I said, when he does the lion salt, I just get scared. That's the most exhilarating I get, I guess, and, yeah, but Wheeler Yuta, great to see him in a main event slot. I wish he didn't tap out, and yeah, that was Dynamite, guys, and we'll just move on over to Rampage as we start. Oh, excuse me, I take it back. We had one more thing on Dynamite. Jericho ended up taking the, he wouldn't take the Lion Tamer off, so I love this, we had protective dad Jon Moxley come out. Oh, it's just the best. With his daughter at home, and then Wheeler Yuta at work, he's just dad now, with the balding head and everything. I love it. All we need now is a dad bod, and let me say that Jon Moxley does not have a dad bod. But yeah, like I said, Jericho would not release the Lion Tamer, so Jon Moxley comes out, storming to the ring, and then Jericho finally releases his hold. Chris Jericho says, Moxley, you unleashed the demon. You opened Pandora's box. You want Lionheart, Chris Jericho. You got it, but I'm going to stretch the you-know-what out of you. And he didn't say you-know-what, but yeah. And then he said effing something. I forget what he said at the end of the show, but it's just weird to hear them say effing. I just would skip the F word all around, I think. You got other swear words to use. Just use those. And that was the end of our show. And we're getting that match next week on Quake at the Lake, by the Lake, I forget what it's called, but moving on over to Rampage, we had Jon Moxley versus Mance Warner to start off the show, and this was a street fight of sorts, I think, if I remember correctly, which I'm not even sure at this point. It's been 2 days since I've watched this. Yes, it was a street fight. Okay, I'm correct. Yeah, and it was pretty brutal, and Jon Moxley loves to bleed, and honestly, you guys, if he bleeds next week in the match against Chris Jericho, I'm going to start to get a little annoyed. I'm going to think Cody Rhodes is back again. It's a little bit much. You don't need to bleed in every match. And this might have happened the hard way. It might have been incidental, but wow, every single match, Jon Moxley just feels the need to bleed, and it takes away from it when he actually does. But yeah, hurling each other into the steel ring steps and the guardrails, DDTs on top of steel ring steps, booting each other in the head. There was one point where Mance grabbed a pair of steel chairs from the ring. He brought them in the ring, but Moxley punched the steel chair, sending it right into Mance's face, but obviously breaking his hand in the process. And I assume that's going to be the story on Wednesday night's match. Moxley's hand is going to be hurt. But he began applying a double wrist lock and then stomping on Mance's face. Moxley spiked Warner with a pile driver in the center of the ring, applied the chokehold, and Mance was rendered unconscious. And then that is how we got the victory. This was fun. I think it was cool to see someone like Vance Warner get the spotlight on a show like Rampage, obviously winning the Battle Royale at Ric Flair's last match, and I'm glad that's the only thing they showed of Ric Flair's last match. I don't, you know what, all in all together, guys, I wouldn't have anything to do with that if I were AEW, but whatever, it's a little something, I guess. To me, this was just kind of violence for violence sake. I didn't think they told much of a story. Just weird for Jon Moxley. I did like the hand spot, the punching of the chair. That was probably the highlight of the match for me. But yeah, moving on, we had clips of an interview from Dynamite were shown where Lexi Nair was trying to interview Absolute Ricky Starks, but weirdly enough, they were interrupted by QT Marshall and the Factory. Oh, I totally forgot, on Dynamite, after Will Hobbs' match, Ricky Starks ran out, overzealous, tried to beat him down, but Powerhouse Hobbs just hit him with the spine buster, and that was that. And so, yes, he's backstage here. And like I said, Powerhouse Hobbs looked great, but he's backstage. QT offering his protection to Starks so he wouldn't get blindsided once again, which is funny because he really didn't get blindsided. And then Starks declines, shoving his way past QT and the stable. Aaron Solo said something about their history. I know nothing about their history, but I will look it up because I am really into this Ricky Starks babyface turn. So we had Konosuke Takeshita versus Ryan Nemeth, which I talked about. And then we had Lexi Nair interviewing Orange Cassidy, which I also talked about already. We had the Tokens women's match, which was Madison Rayne versus Layla Gray, and this wasn't good, you guys. So here's my concern. Madison Rayne was hired to be the coach of the women's division. So when you go out and have a match against someone like Layla Gray, who's really green still, you want to have a really good match because you want to show that you're going to be able to coach these women into wrestling a really good match. This was not a really good match. It was clunky. They lost themselves at certain points. There was miscommunication errors. Obviously, Madison Rayne getting the win. But, and I'm excited for her match against Jade Cargill. I'm looking for, a second try here. This isn't a one and done. You suck. Now you're gone. I have no faith in you. But, if Dustin Rhodes is training the women, I have a lot more faith in him doing it than what I saw from Madison Rayne, because I don't know a lot about Madison Rayne. But, and I know Layla Gray is really green. Easy for me to say again, but that's what you're working with here. And so you've got to coach these green women into hiding the negatives and accentuating the positives, and they did not do that here. So, like I said, Madison Rayne got the victory. And then Jade Cargill came out. She said, "Good help is so hard to find these days. I knew I should have handled you myself." She's doing big on charity, or she's big on charity, and she's having an open challenge this Wednesday on Dynamite. So she thinks Madison should accept that, show up, show out, and get that ass beat. And while you're at it, I think you should take a couple days off. Madison Rayne is snuck up on by Kiera Hogan, who tries to ambush her, but she hits... weirdly enough, she hits Kiera Hogan, and this is how she won the match as well, with a cross Rain, which is just a crossroads. I don't know. I don't like that finisher either. I've never liked that Cody Rhodes' finisher. It just doesn't look... It's kind of like... I think Damian Priest had a finisher like it as well. It just doesn't look impactful to me whatsoever. But Friday night street fight time. AEW World Tag Team Champions Swerve in Our Glory, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland versus Josh Woods, the premier athlete Tony Nese, obviously with Smart Mark Sterling coming out as well. And this match, you guys, was a lot of fun. A way better street fight than the first match, I thought. Began brawling right away. There was a spot where Tony Nese threw protein powder in Keith Lee's face, and then Swerve ended up kicking the bottle of protein powder out of Nice's hands and into his face as well, which just kind of looked awesome. They should use more protein powder in wrestling. I'm just saying, or dust or stuff like that. I know it could be could be dangerous, but yeah, it looks really awesome. So more of that, please. Smart Mark Sterling got involved here, hitting Keith Lee in the back with a chair, but Keith Lee grabbed the chair from Sterling, except Tony Nese came in and hit Woods with the DDT, Tony Nese came in and hit Lee with the DDT onto a chair. Swerve ended up jumping off the top rope, hitting a 450 splash onto all the men, breaking up the pinfall, which looked awesome. You could see it coming. It was kind of a contrived spot, but it still looked really awesome. Sterling came and slid a table into the ring, having Tony Nese set it up. They tried to put Swerve through the table, but Swerve nailed Nese with a knee strike. Sterling jumped into the ring and tried to get Josh Woods to go up on the top rope and go through Swerve, except Keith Lee grabbed Woods out of the ring and then headbutted Tony Nese. So Sterling is left there on the top rope as he goes up to try to put Swerve through the table, but Keith Lee grabbed him, threw Sterling off the top rope to the table. Woods, with the help of a kick from Nese, suplexed Keith Lee off the apron onto 2 tables. That looked brutal, like a really rough spot, more so for Josh Woods even than Keith Lee. But and then Swerve dropped Nese into a pile of chairs and finished him off with a double foot stomp for the pin. Great victory for the tag team champions. I thought this was a really fun match and a good. It's notch on your belt. Got it, not badge. Good notch on the belt for the tag team champions. This turned out to be a lot, like this really over-delivered from what this feud was. I hope we're done with this now and we can move on. But Tony Nese always shows up and shows out. I think he's a really underrated player in AEW, and Josh Woods looked great as well. But I think this was another awesome showing from Swerve Strickland, who just... There was a really awesome kick from Tony Nese in the match, too, that Swerve sold really well. Like, just, those two guys have great chemistry, and I could watch them wrestle over and over and over again, preferably without all the shenanigans from Smart Mark Sterling, but it was nice to see him go to the table and get his comeuppance. And yeah, guys, that was Dynamite, Rampage, and Battle of the Belts, kind of in a quick recap. So, I hope you enjoyed all of that. I'm glad we got some kind of show out this week. Life is just super busy lately, but this is one of my favorite things to do during the week, so I want to make sure I can keep hopping on here. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will talk to you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.